People always talk about marriage like it's the end goal. Find a good man, settle down, live happily ever after. And I guess on paper, I got just that. Cameron, my husband, is a good man, hardworking, reliable, and loves me to death. We've built this life together, one that looks picture perfect from the outside. But let me tell you, sometimes perfection is just a mask. Cameron and I, we've got the routine down. Wake up, kiss on the cheek, breakfast, work, come home, dinner, bed. It's like clockwork. We don't argue much. But that's the problem. Somewhere along the line, the passion faded, and now it's like we're living in a well-oiled machine instead of a marriage. He's so caught up in making everything right, paying bills, fixing things around the house, that he misses what's really wrong, and I guess I can't blame him. I'm pretty good at hiding it. There was a time when Cameron was all I wanted. He still is, in a way. He's stable, comforting, the kind of man who keeps you grounded, but stability can get boring real quick when the spark is gone, and that's when temptation starts knocking. Enter Calvin, my boss, our preacher, and the man who makes me feel alive in ways Cameron hasn't in a long time. It's not like I plan on stepping out, but when you've been starving for excitement and someone offers you a taste of something forbidden, it's hard to say no. Calvin knows exactly how to play the game. He sees the cracks in my marriage, the need I've been denying, and he fills the space with sweet words, secret meetings, and just enough danger to keep me hooked. But here's the thing, no matter what I'm doing behind Cameron's back, I still care about him. He's a good man, maybe too good for someone like me. But while he's focused on being the perfect husband, I'm over here balancing lies, sneaking around, and trying not to let the guilt eat me alive. So yeah, I'm married, but it's complicated. Love isn't black and white, and neither are the choices we make. I'm living two lives, one with the man who gives me stability and another with the one who gives me thrills, and it's only a matter of time before it all comes crashing down. You know how people say you'll always remember the moment you meet the one? Well, that's how it was when I met Cameron. Back in 2015, we were both in college, trying to figure out who we were and what we wanted out of life. He had this boyish charm, the kind that makes you feel safe, like he's got it all together. Even when he doesn't, we clicked. Instantly late night talks, laughing over takeout, dreaming about the future. Back then, I thought we were on the fast track to something solid. But Cameron always had his guard up, especially when it came to commitment. He had this history, these scars from past relationships that made him slow to trust. I could see it in the way he hesitated whenever we got too close to making things official. College wasn't exactly smooth sailing for him either. He went through a rough breakup before we met, and it messed with his head. He told me all about it one night after we'd had a few too many drinks, how she left him high and dry, making him question everything about love. It was the kind of wound that doesn't heal easy. So we took our time. Years passed, and while everyone around us was getting engaged and starting families, we just stayed in this weird limbo. I tried not to let it bother me, but deep down, I wanted more. I wanted to know that we were headed somewhere, that all the time I was putting in wasn't just going to end up being another dead-end relationship. By 2019, I was getting restless. I'd drop hints, casually bringing up marriage like it was no big deal. But every time, Cameron would dodge the conversation or say, "Let's not rush things." Rush? We'd been together for 4 years at that point. I was starting to wonder if he was ever going to put a ring on it, or if I was wasting my time. It took until 20205 long, years of waiting and wondering before he finally proposed. And even then, I could tell he was battling his own doubts. I remember the night clear as day. We were at a fancy dinner he planned, and as soon as he got down on one knee, I could see the fear in his eye. Not fear of marrying me, but fear of making a mistake, of committing to something he couldn't walk away from if things got tough. But when he slipped that ring on my finger, I thought maybe we finally moved past all that. The wedding was beautiful, small, intimate, just close family and friends. For a moment, it felt like the beginning of everything we'd been building toward. But I could still feel that old hesitation lingering beneath the surface, like a ghost we hadn't quite shaken off. Cameron loved me, I knew that much. But the man had walls thick, unbreakable walls that I could never fully get past. People see Cameron and me, and they think we've got it all figured out. We're that picture-perfect couple, married, stable jobs, a nice house. but behind closed doors, it's a whole different story. You see, people don't know what we really go through. They don't know about the struggles, the quiet battles, the secrets that keep piling up. It's easy to show the good parts, the Instagram-worthy moments, but nobody sees the days when I can't even get out of bed because my mind feels like a storm I can't control. Yeah, I struggle with bipolar disorder, and it's not something I like to talk about. It's like a shadow that follows me everywhere, creeping in when I least expect it. Some days, I'm on top of the world full of energy, ideas, plans. I'm the life of the party, making everyone laugh, getting things done. But then there are days when I crash so hard that it feels like the world's closing in on me. I can barely think straight, let alone keep it together. And when I'm in those dark spaces, I push everyone away, even Cameron. He tries to understand. I know he does, but it's hard for him. I see the worry in his eyes, the frustration when I'm not myself. He wants to fix it, to make it all better, but this isn't something he can just fix. And that's a tough pill for him to swallow, especially since he's got his own demons he's dealing with. You wouldn't know it by looking at him, but Cameron struggles too. Infertility, it's a word we don't like to say out loud, but it's been hanging over us for a while now. We've been trying to have a family for the past couple of years, but nothing's happening. And the more time goes by, the more sensitive he gets about it. It's like this unspoken thing between us. Every time a friend announces they're pregnant or we see families out and about, I can feel his pain. He tries to hide it, but I know him too well. I see the way his shoulders tense up, the way his smile fades just a little. He doesn't talk about it much, but I can tell he's carrying a lot of guilt. He blames himself for us not having kids yet, even though I keep telling him it's not his fault. But that's the thing about Cameron, he internalizes everything. He's always been the type to keep his emotions locked up tight, only letting me see bits and pieces when it all gets too heavy for him to carry alone. I've suggested we go see a doctor, get some answers, figure out what's going on, but he's been dragging his feet. I think he's scared of what they might say, scared that it really is something wrong with him, and that fear is eating him alive. For me, it's complicated. I want a family, but part of me wonders if I'm even cut out to be a mom. With my bipolar disorder, there are days when I can barely take care of myself. How am I supposed to take care of a child when I can't always keep my own mind in check? And then there's the fear of passing it on. What if our child ends up struggling like I do? It's a lot to think about, and I haven't really opened up to Cameron about all of it. I don't want to add more stress to what he's already dealing with. We've talked about seeing a family doctor, maybe getting some fertility treatments, but it's been all talk so far. Neither of us has taken that first step. I guess we're both afraid of what we'll find out, afraid that it might be something we can't fix, but we can't keep avoiding it forever. Time's ticking, and if we really want a family, we've got to face this head on. But even with all of that weighing on us, life goes on. We put on our happy faces, go to work, smile at our neighbors, and keep up the appearance that everything's fine. And honestly, some days it is. Some days we're good, we laugh, we cuddle on the couch, we talk about our dreams like nothing's wrong. But then there are days when the silence between us is so loud it's deafening. We tiptoe around certain topics, both of us pretending we're okay when we're really not. I guess that's part of why I got so wrapped up in this mess with Calvin. It's an escape. It's easier to get lost in something exciting and forbidden than to deal with the reality of what's going on at home with Calvin. I don't have to think about doctor appointments, medications, or fertility treatments. I don't have to worry about whether or not I'm capable of being a good wife or a future mom. I can just let go and be whoever I want to be in the moment. It's a distraction from the guilt, the pressure, the fear of what the future holds. But deep down, I know it's a temporary fix. I can't keep running from the truth forever. At some point, Cameron and I are going to have to face our problems. Whether we're ready or not, we're going to have to decide what we really want, if we're willing to fight for this marriage, for our future family, or if we're just going through the motions, hoping things will magically get better on their own. I know I'm playing with fire, juggling all these secrets and lies, but right now, it feels like I'm stuck in a loop, one foot in the life I've built with Cameron, and the other foot slipping further into this dangerous affair with Calvin. And honestly, I don't know how much longer I can keep it up. That's the thing about life sometimes. The very thing you think will save you ends up being what destroys you. I just hope that when everything comes to light, I can still find a way to hold on to the pieces that matter most. Because underneath it all, despite everything we're going through, I do love Cameron. I just don't know if love is enough to fix what's broken. You know, when I first met Calvin, I wasn't even looking his way like that. He's not the type of man you'd immediately notice on the surface. He's the perfect gentleman, clean cut, always smiling, saying the right things. But if you look close enough, you start to see the cracks. The way his eyes linger a little too long, or how his smile doesn't quite reach his eyes. The man's got charm. I'll give him that. He knows how to play the role, especially in front of people who don't really know him. Calvin's got everyone fooled too. In the office, they talk about him like he's some kind of saint. Pastor Calvin, they call him. The man loves the attention. He'll walk into a room, Bible in one hand, and that smooth talking voice ready to throw a scripture at you, acting like he's everyone's spiritual guide. But I saw through it pretty quick. There's something unsettling about someone who's always trying to convince you how good they are. Real goodness doesn't need to announce itself. But even with all my reservations, I couldn't deny the pull. There's a certain thrill in knowing someone's bad for you, but still feeling that magnetic attraction. Calvin knew how to use his words, how to make you feel like you were the most important person in the room, even if it was all just an act. And the way he looked at me, like he could see right through the layers I built up over the years that did something to me, it made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. It didn't take long for us to start flirting. At first, it was innocent, well, as innocent as it can be when you're eyeing someone you know you shouldn't be. We trade jokes, share knowing glances during meetings, little touches that lingered just a second too long. He'd always make sure to ask how I was doing, how things were at home, but there was always an undertone to his questions, like he was probing for weaknesses, for cracks he could slip into. And once he found them, he wasted no time exploiting them. I remember the day he invited me to his office after hours. The lights were low, the atmosphere heavy with something unsaid. He started talking about his life, his struggles, the weight of being both a pastor and a leader at work. It was all part of the game, getting me to let my guard down by pretending he was vulnerable too. And he's good at it, really good. He knows exactly when to play the woe is me card, just to reel you in. The more I listened, the more I realized Calvin was anything but the man he pretended to be. He's a textbook narcissist, a freak in every sense of the word. He CRAVs attention, thrives on power, and he'll use anyone and anything to get what he wants. He talks a good game about being a man of God, but it's all smoke and mirrors. He hides behind that Bible while doing dirt behind closed doors. And then there's his wife, Tasha. Poor woman's been through it. She's got a disability, something chronic that's been wearing her down for years. I've never met her, but from what I've heard around the office, she's a shadow of the woman she used to be. Calvin loves to play the martyr when he talks about her, acting like he's this devoted husband, taking care of his sick wife out of the goodness of his heart. But I've seen the other side of him. He doesn't care about her. He treats her like a burden, someone he's stuck with because leaving would ruin his image. It's sick, really. Tasha's collecting disability checks, and instead of using that money to support her or make her life easier, Calvin's out here tricking it off on other women. He's got a whole side life that she knows nothing about, or maybe she does, but she's too tired or too beaten down to fight it anymore. Either way, it's clear Calvin's only sticking around because he needs her checks to fund his little adventures. Without them, he'd have to face the reality that he's nothing without the facade he's built. And here's the twisted part, knowing all of this should have been enough to make me stay away. I should have run in the other direction the minute I saw what kind of man he really was. But something about the danger, the thrill of doing something I wasn't supposed to, kept me coming back. It was like a game, seeing how far we could push it before everything came crashing down. And Calvin, he's the kind of man who gets off on the chase, on having something he shouldn't have. The first time we crossed that line, I told myself it was a one-time thing, just a slip up, nothing more. But that's the thing about lines, once you cross them, it's a lot easier to do it again. Before I knew it, we were deep in this twisted affair. It wasn't just about the physical connection, though that was a big part of it. Calvin knew exactly how to push my buttons, how to make me feel seen in a way that Cameron hadn't in a long time. He played the role of the perfect lover, attentive, passionate, and just the right amount of possessive. But even in the heat of it all, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was dancing with the devil. Calvin's eyes would go dark sometimes, and I'd catch a glimpse of the real him, the one who doesn't care about anyone but himself. He's a master manipulator, always 10 steps ahead, always calculating how to get what he wants. He's the kind of man who'd smile in your face while plotting your downfall. And yet, I kept going back, kept getting deeper into this mess.